Bear with me. What up guys, Victor here, back with another Tackle Tuesday, and I know it's Wednesday, but better late than never. And today I want to talk about reel backing, and what I'm saying is backing it up, I mean backing up your conventional or your spinning reels with either mono or braid backing. Because a lot of people don't know that you can actually back up your reels with either. And I'm going to show you an example, a real world example of what I do with mono backing versus braid backing, because each one does have its time and place. So a couple of the things I'm going to go over in this video is why you should back your reels up in the first place, how it can actually save you a lot of money and it can save your line in the long run, some applications, when to use it, where to use it, the connections you guys should be making when you're backing up your reels, when you're going from either mono to braid or braid to mono, and so on. So the first thing I want to talk about, and I think that most people think about when it comes to backing up a reel, is braid backing. So normally you're going to back up a reel with braid when you either want to increase your line capacity. Well, generally that's going to be your main reason, is to increase your line capacity of a reel. And the beauty in this is what it allows you to do is, let's say for example with offshore fishing, I don't like to use giant, big, bulky spinning reels. I like to use a 5,000 to 6,000 size reel, but fish it like I would be fishing an 8,000 to 10,000 size reel, and I'm able to do so because when you back up your reel with braid, you have the same line capacity that you would have with that bigger spool of that 8 to 10,000 size reel. And with the new technology that they're putting in spinning reels nowadays, the drag capacity of these 5,000, 6,000 size reels are pretty comparable to the older 10 and 8,000 size reels. So the reels are getting better and better these days, so you're able to fish a lighter, more comfortable reel with the same line capacity, and you don't have to have that sacrifice of a big, bulky reel. So I'm going to show you real quick what I mean by this. So you come look over here, and these are two new setups that I just got. So these are Daiwa BGs right here. This is a 5,000 and this one's also 5,000, and I purposely left one unspooled to show you the difference. So when we're fishing offshore right here out of Southeast Florida, we do a lot of live bait fishing, and I do not like to fish braid when you're live baiting and when you're drifting, because when you get tangled with mono, it's one thing, it's easy to cut off and easy to untangle, but getting tangled with braid is no fun. So what I did, instead of getting a big bulky reel, you can see this is a nice reel that fits in my hand, these are only 5,000 size reels, I went ahead and I spooled up both of these with 300 yards of 30-pound braid backing. So now I'm already equipped with enough line to go offshore and tackle big pelagic fish without having to sacrifice line, but I'm also fishing a comfortable reel. And what it's going to allow me to do also is to put that 20-pound mono on top, is what I wanted to do, because like I said, I do not like getting tangled offshore. When you're drift fishing, getting tangled is inevitable. Baits swim into each other, things get tangled, and mono is a lot cheaper to replace than braid is. Now here's another thing that I wanted to talk about. One of the beauties of braid backing is in the fact that you got to think, when you're fishing offshore or anywhere for that matter, here let me turn it over real quick to me. When you're fishing offshore or anywhere for that matter, you're really only like the first quarter to half of your spool of line is ever really seeing the water, ever really touching the water. That half of spool, that quarter, the last quarter spool, is almost never in the water. So you can go ahead and invest in that braid backing, leave it on there, and it's basically going to stay new for the duration of your line. And it is a lot cheaper to replace mono than it is to braid. So what you do is you fill up your reel with some braid, just like here. You put some mono on top, and you put about 100 to 200 yard top shot. And mono, it'll last a lot longer than, well no, it won't last a lot longer, but what I'm trying to get at is the fact that you can change your mono a lot more often, and for I literally just had the light fall off my camera, so sorry about that. That's what that noise was and everything. But so what I was trying to say is you can go ahead and put that braid backing on, have it fill up half your spool, have the line capacity you need, and then just go ahead and change that mono top shot, you know, every 10 to 20 trips. I don't know how, depending on how heavy you guys fish and what you put your line through. But hopefully you guys catch my drift with, you know, keep the line that's on there at the base of the spool that's not going to see the water that much, just in case you do run into a big fish and you need the line capacity, and then put the stuff that gets used and abused on top, and this way, you know, you have the best of both worlds. You have the line capacity, and you can always have some fresh line that's going to be hitting the water, because let's face it, the last 100 to 200 yards right here, the first top of it is the one that's facing the water. So that is one application of where you would use braid backing. And another thing, you know, in that last recent video that I just did with the shark setups, I said I don't really like braid for sharks. But a lot of guys, what they like to do is they like that extra line capacity of braid. So what you can do is you can also use braid for the line capacity on the big reels. Braid allows you to fish a more comfortable, smaller reel than you normally would because of that thin diameter and that line capacity. So that is what I'm going to talk about as far as backing up your reels with braid. Now let's move over and talk about mono backing, because a lot of people don't realize mono backing has its time and place as well. So I'm very excited. First of all, this is the first time you guys have ever seen these on camera. These are two brand new Abbott 50s, and you will be seeing them fished a lot offshore in the coming months and weeks for AJs, high speeding, planer fishing, great offshore reels. But one thing I wanted to note. So here, I'm trying to get the camera to focus. So here is an Abbott 50 right here, okay? And this reel will hold way more braid than I could possibly need, especially because I'm putting 80-pound braid on there, which is pretty normal for a 50 size reel. Now this reel will probably hold around 1,000 to 1,200 yards of 80-pound braid, which I just do not need. So instead of wasting and spooling up my entire reel with braid, what I did is I put about half of the spool, or a little bit less than half the spool, with mono. I put 80-pound mono on there, and then this one's already has the braid on top, but this one I left empty to demonstrate. Then I would do an FG knot from my 80-pound mono to my 80-pound braid and fill up the rest of the spool of the braid. So I have enough braid to fish offshore, I have what I need, and now, like I said before, since you're only really fishing that first half of the spool, that first quarter, top of the spool that's ever really touching the water, now I can refresh my braid more often than I would be able to than if I had a full spool. Imagine respooling 1,000 yards of braid versus 500 yards of braid. You know, you got to think efficiently and cost effectively, which is I'm always trying to do and help you guys out. So there's a little secret that I utilize is, especially with the bigger reels, is you can back your reels up with mono and then just put on the amount of braid that you need. And that. Two last things I wanted to know. I showed you that how the BGs I used for extra line capacity, and I'm able to fish a lot smaller of a reel. But also one thing I wanted to point out was the fact that you can also put a lot of braid backing and make a reel more versatile than it normally would be. For example, I have a Penn Baja where I have 500 yards of braid on it, and it gives me a lot of line capacity, so I can do stuff like you've seen me swim jacks off the beach for sharks, but I can also take it offshore and I can use that thin diameter braid and I can bottom fish with it, I could vertical jig fish with it, I could drop down live baits on it. And you can also use braid backing to increase the line capacity and put on a heavier top shot. So let's say that same reel, I know I'm gonna go snook fishing or I need a lot of abrasion resistance, I can put on a very heavy mono top shot on top of that braid. And so you gotta think outside the box and find how you can make your reel as versatile as possible, and that's what I'm trying to do. That way you don't have to have a reel for each separate thing. You can try to make your reels as versatile as possible. And final thing I wanted to note, I told you guys about the connection. So I am a huge believer, and if you guys have been watching this channel for some time, you know that I love FG knots. So for this reel, I attach my mono to braid with an FG knot, and same thing for this reel right here, the FG knot. And if you also, like I said, if you guys watch any of my videos, I almost never have my FG knot fail. I honestly can't say I've ever had it fail. The last time I went to Flamingo, every single time I got stuck on the mangroves, I was fishing 15-pound braid and 30-pound leader or 20-pound leader. Every single time my hook would either straighten first or my leader would break. That FG knot is the real deal. It is the truth, guys. So when you are doing these braid to mono or mono to braid, that is the end of the video. I hope you guys enjoyed it. I hope you learned something. I'm always looking out for the land shark family, so I'm just trying to get you guys to really, think outside the box. And this is one of those things where, you can get really creative in the way you back your reels up. And hopefully I opened up some ideas, sparked some light bulbs in people's heads. Or maybe this is just a very redundant topic, but I feel like it can definitely help a lot of people. And I really want to stress the fact that spooling up your reels and backing them up the proper way, like I mentioned, it's a great way to save money on line. Always spool up at the base of the spool, the line that's not going to be seeing the water that often, and that's the expensive line you should generally be putting on there, like I said with that braid backing. But in certain instances, like the 50s, I need that braid on top because of the way I'm going to be fishing with it, with the high-speed trolling, the planer fishing, dropping down for AJs. You need that thin diameter to really cut through the water. So hopefully that answers some questions. There's a lot of people may have been confused in how I've been preaching putting your braid on backing to save money, but that is the reason I do have my braid on those 50s on top. So thank you guys for watching, and as always, stay salty, my friends, and I'll see you guys in that next Tackle Tuesday.